Welcome to the Miles to Zen podcast, conversations shaped by curiosity, creativity, and connection. I'm your host, Shannon Miles Halliday, and this show is where we explore new possibilities and embrace the wild, beautiful, ever unfolding adventure of being human. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Miles to Zen podcast. I'm Shannon, and welcome to the first episode of season 2. And today we are exploring something that has been with me for 25 years, and that is, in fact, my favorite book, one that I have reread more than any other, and each time I read it, I get something new. And that is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. He says that this book was about him, his soul, and I think it is a story about our souls as well. He feels happiness when he rereads his book, which is awesome, as do I. And this is not a book review. I have read that cultural visibility creates a backlash, and that a book that is constantly being recommended leads people to contrarian responses, which I have certainly seen. But in full disclosure, as I said, I've read this book many times, and this book carries for me many truths laid out in a simple manner. And that is the basis of our purpose, I think. It is often simple. And this book has shaped me like I think it's helped shape so many people. It sold over 65 million copies, and that's probably a low estimate, and has been translated into 80 different languages. So today I want to share 7 lessons from The Alchemist that help you trust your intuition and follow your real path. So, this book is really about the soul of the world and how we are all connected. And that's why it feels alive every time you read it and can give you something new, like a new lesson or a reminder or a new sign. And I wanted to share some of the things that bubbled up to the surface, big and small. So, lesson 1. And this is the most well-known of all his writing, I think. When you want something, the whole universe conspires to help you. And I think that so many people have heard of this, even if you haven't read the book. But I think it's true. And we talk about signs and synchronicities all the time. And when Paulo Coelho wrote this in the early 90s, he called them omens, the language of God. And that's exactly what they are, little nudges, little winks from the universe. In a previous episode with Orly Alteras, she talks about getting winks from the universe, little keep going moments. And the more you pay attention, the more you realize perhaps you're not walking alone. Perhaps if you pay attention, you're being guided or you can be guided. And that the beginner's luck that you feel sometimes is real and it's a sign. And it's this unseen force that gives you a taste of success early on, just enough to inspire you to keep going. And think about where you have seen this in your life. This first yes, this first synchronicity, a first moment when you thought, okay, with this new dream or this new idea I want to bring into the world, maybe I'm on the right path. And beginner's luck isn't random. It is the universe saying, keep going. Now, total caveat here, this does not apply if you're in Las Vegas. The language the universe uses to communicate with us is, as you guessed it, intuition. And Coelho writes that intuition is really a sudden immersion of the soul into the universal current of life. I love that visual. My mom used to call them hunches, and I don't hear that word much anymore, but it's perfect. And here's one of the synchronicities. Before creating this episode, while rereading the book, I was really wondering, should I share this? And the word hunch came up. Now, Santiago, who is the main character in the book, his mother used that word. And that was as simple as it was. That was the sign. That was the simple yes. And um, that's an example of the universal language. And it's one of those things that connects us to everything, especially if we can get out of our way and listen. Lesson number 2, judgment and this one lie pulls you off your path. Firstly, judgment. Everyone seems to have a clear idea of how other people should lead their lives, but none about their own. Now, isn't that so true? It's so much easier to know what someone else should do than to know what we should do. And when we're focused outward on what others are doing or perhaps not doing, we lose the thread of our own soul. We listen to that closed-minded opinion, those that maybe have faced fear and went in the other direction, and those people who in many cases just want to keep you safe and want the best for you, or worse, maybe bringing up their own insecurities and self-judgments. And this is something I've talked about on the podcast as part of the Creative Soul series. What does your soul truly want? Not your parents, not your partner, not society, you. When you get quiet and you listen, because your soul and your intuition is very quiet, you will get hints. Secondly, he says that at a certain point of our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us and our lives become controlled by fate. That is the world's greatest lie. And he talks about in the story a baker that when he was a child, all he wanted to do was travel, but he decided to buy his bakery first and put some money aside. And when he's an old man, he's going to spend a month in Africa. And he quotes that he never realized that people are capable at any time in their lives of doing what they dream of. And Santiago said to the king who was telling him this story about the baker, he said, the baker should have become a shepherd and then he could travel. But the king of Salam, that's the king he was talking to, said that bakers are more important people than shepherds because bakers have homes, I would say are perceived as more important people because bakers have homes while shepherds sleep out in the open. And parents would rather see their children marry bakers than shepherds. And in the long run, what people think about bakers and shepherds becomes more important to them than their own personal legend or finding their purpose or whatever else you want to say, going after your personal treasure. And this is really interesting because at this point in the story, Santiago, the boy was wondering, the shepherd boy was wondering, why are you telling me all this? And he said, because you are trying to realize your personal legend, which also means you're going after your dream. And you're going after what you think could be your purpose in life. And at this point, Santiago was thinking of giving it all up. And that's when he needed this nudge from the universe. And that came in the form of this king. And isn't it the case that when we have a number of roadblocks or when we get in our heads about something and we think, maybe I should just give up on this dream? And that's often when the universe will send you a little sign or synchronicity, like meeting someone or an object that appears in your path out of nowhere, or the exact perfect conversation with a friend that you really needed. Lesson number 3, protect your dream in its early stages. And this one is so important, especially for creatives and people pleasers, and a whole list of us. Santiago wanted to give the king part of his future treasure. And the king tells Santiago, if you start out by promising what you don't have yet, you'll lose your desire to work toward getting it. And I think about this all the time. If you share too much of your new creative baby, your new idea, your new project before it's fully formed, you run the risk of losing steam, getting talked out of it, or having someone else's doubts extinguish your spark. So give your dream a little time to get some legs. Of course, seek some guidance if you need to, but let your dream incubate and grow a little before you share it with anyone who is not going to help it flourish. Lesson 4. Decisions are powerful. They put you in the river. Santiago receives 2 stones from the king, Urim and Thummim, black for yes, white for no. He shares these stones not because the stones are magical, but because decisions matter. And the king reminded him that everything we deal with is only one thing and nothing else. For years, I struggled with decision making, but decisions are like energetic contracts. And just in a bit of a departure here, to quote the Indigo Girls, one of my favorite lyrics is, "Standing at the fork in the road, you can stand there and agonize until your agony's your heaviest load." Yes, can I ever relate with that one? But once you decide, once you step off the fence, you step onto the path, and suddenly you're in the river and you're being carried towards things that you couldn't have imagined. Coelho says, making a decision was only the beginning of things. And it's true. It puts your life in perspective. Lesson number 5. True love supports your purpose. It doesn't replace it. Now, this one is big. And if you listen to my chat with Anne Mortifee, no matter how cute they are, it doesn't matter. This one can get us into a world of pain. Santiago meets the love of his life and he thinks, maybe I'll stop my journey here. But the alchemist tells him, love never keeps a man from pursuing his personal legend. And I would say, never keeps someone from pursuing their personal legend. And if you give up your calling for someone else or what your soul is asking you to do, resentment grows. Not because you don't love them, but because you've abandoned yourself. And self-betrayal is a terrible, deep hurt. The right person doesn't pull you off your path. They walk with you, support you, and they understand that your purpose and your dreams are part of who you are. And this doesn't mean your path towards your purpose is a straight line and your purpose can evolve and change. It's usually anything but. And decisions and the heartfelt talks are needed here so you don't stop pursuing your dreams and then blame someone else. That is a choice. Lesson 6. What are you attracting? So Coelho writes, there is only one thing that makes a dream impossible: the fear of failure. Now, we have certainly talked about fear in season 1 and how it can steal your joy. And Paulo Coelho talks about the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, and that most people give up right before the treasure. Not because they're weak, but because they don't realize how close they are. Now, think about what we're attracting: fear or something else. Coelho writes that life attracts life. And I've seen this in nature in the basin of a volcano where plants somehow survive in impossible conditions. Joy attracts joy, stress attracts stress. Whatever you put out is what you get back. Your energy is a magnet. And I'm sure we've all done it. We've all walked into rooms, and sometimes you can just feel the energy of a room. And often you can feel if somebody is having a bad day or not. And science is starting to prove that we all have an energy field that we bring with us wherever we go. And if you've followed my podcast for a while, this is not a surprise for you. And if you've just started, just think about how far our electromagnetic fields are. Lesson 7. You play a central role in the world's story. Deep within our core is a desire to know with utmost certainty that our lives mean something. One of my favorite lines in the entire book is, every person on earth plays a central role in the history of the world, and normally he doesn't know it. So normally they don't know it. Most of us have no idea how important we are, how tiny decisions impact people. And one of my favorite quotes is, smile and realize how many people you can touch without even lifting a finger. These even small moments, your yeses, your nos, they ripple out into the world. Your intuition, your nudges, your whispers, and yes, your hunches are not random. It is guidance and it is direction. And Paulo and I believe it is your soul or our souls remembering why we are here. And here's another synchronicity that told me that I was on the right path for reviewing or for talking about some of the lessons learned from this book. So I first read this book 25 years ago, and I'm holding the 25-year anniversary edition, which I read in 2025. And isn't that cool? So I looked for this book. I had lent out my English version and I never got it back. And so I wanted to buy a new one. And this was the one I found. So cool, right? So this is just a small reminder how the universe speaks through timing, through symbols, through books, ideas, songs, movies, things that return to us when we're ready. So what is your intuition nudging you to do right now? What does your soul want? It can be huge. Like, I want to go to the pyramids and start digging just like Santiago. Or I want to start a company. Or just a small, I'm being pulled to go to this coffee shop and write in my journal. And I don't really know why, but I'm going to follow that nudge. And are you willing to follow it? Thank you for being here and thank you for walking this path with me. I am so grateful. And thank you to Paulo Coelho for your writing about your soul's journey to help us all feel connected. And in fact, once we get out of our own way, it is easier to connect with other people. And I really loved this. I wanted to share it with all of you, how he talks about his book. I reread The Alchemist regularly, and every time I do, I experience the same sensations I felt when I wrote it. And here is what I feel. I feel happiness because it is all of me and all of you simultaneously. I feel happiness too because I know I can never be alone. Wherever I go, people understand me. They understand my soul. And this continues to give me hope. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you for joining me on the Miles to Zen podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, follow, or leave a comment so we can keep growing this community together. This podcast was created by Shannon Miles Halliday with original music by Anna Vavziniak.